If you're looking for some easy ways to use ChatGPT to create some complex text and literacy activities, stay tuned and I'll walk you through some easy prompts and give you some lesson ideas that will target your upper school students in literacy rotations. Welcome to AI for Teachers. I'm Jen Twidale. Today I'm going to run you through how to create some complex texts and corresponding literacy activities. I find when students are around 9 years or older, we start to focus a little bit less on actually decoding the text, and we're really wanting to focus on the complexities of the text, language features, text structures, etc. So today I'm going to show you how you can integrate some of your learning areas to create text and then generate some activities that will go along with them. In the examples today, I'll be showing you how you can use your HAS subject to create a text and how you can use ChatGPT in poetry units as well. Once I was in ChatGPT, I just used the prompt, write a fictional story about a family who moves to the Australian goldfields in the 1800s, include historically true elements, include some speech and the language features, metaphor and personification, and I asked it to make it at Lexile 900. So this text was for my higher end students. I really find I want to try and incorporate two learning areas. The students may as well be reading a text that links to our HAS or social studies unit so that you're kind of combining those two ideas. I find ChatGPT is exceptional at creating non-fiction text. So this one, obviously a historical fiction. It's a really nice story about a family who moves to the goldfields, and it did incorporate some great historically relevant events in the story. From there, I wanted to look at some of the language features that it included in the text. So I simply put in the prompt, list the language features in the prior text with examples. I did this because I want to create an activity where the students find the language features. So I put this prompt in first so that it acknowledged what language features were there, giving me answers as well. That way I can also double check I agree with which language features it thinks it contains. Then I put in the prompt, create a table with the language features in the first column and a blank second column. Write instructions for a student to locate examples of the language features in the text. Now you see here it made a nice table for me with the language features that it has in the text: metaphor, personification, simile, and dialogue. In the instructions, it's actually given a few clues as to what those language features are, so that can be a little bit of a hint for students if they're unsure. Then you may find that getting these tables out into a Word document, the formatting doesn't stay. What I found is actually using the clipboard doesn't work well. I highlight the table and hit copy, and I actually end up exporting it into Excel, and I find that keeps the table in its proper formatting, so that can be a good tip for you to try. So from there, I've looked at the language features of the text. The next activity I thought about doing was creating some multiple choice questions involving the complex vocabulary in the text. Obviously this text, because I did it at a Lexile 900, it used some more complex vocabulary. And I asked it to use definitions for the choices and to include instructions. Now it's given me 5 different multiple choice questions and answers. One of them I didn't completely agree with the question that it made up, but overall I was quite happy with the questions that it came up with, and I think that can be a really good quick activity for students to have a look at to help them with their vocabulary. Next, I went on to a punctuation activity. So currently we're working on direct speech and including that in our writing. So I used the prompt, write the dialogue with incorrect punctuation. Leave out some commas, quotation marks, and capital letters. And I wanted it to include instructions for the student to correct the punctuation. So it's done exactly that. It's taken some of the speech from the previous text, it's left out some of the correct punctuation, and your students can go through, either rewrite it or just add in the corrections, however you would like to complete that activity. Obviously, comprehension is very useful in our literacy rotations. In the lower years, I use the QAR method when I am asking a prompt for comprehension. Today, I just broke it up into different types of questions. So I asked it to make some true and false comprehension questions for the story above, and it's come up with 4 of those. I also asked it directly to create 2 inferring questions for the story above. I think it's done a nice job there. Based on the story, what can you infer about the Smiths' motivation for moving to the goldfields? And lastly, if you want to get a little bit more of a reflection, I use the prompt, create 2 reflective comprehension questions for the story. It has asked one of them, how do you think the experience and challenge faced by the Smith family in their pursuit of gold impacted their personal growth and resilience? So it's given some really deep thinking questions there that I think would be good for my top literacy group. As you can imagine, it doesn't matter what type of text you end up generating with ChatGPT. You can use these activity ideas, multiple choice questions, true and false questions, questions that are linking to your punctuation, grammar, etc. All of these are able to be used with any text. ChatGPT can also create nonfiction text. I do find that you need to be a lot more specific in your prompt in order to get the information included in a nonfiction text to make sure it's thorough enough. It's also very good at creating poetry, and I've been able to use similar activities when I've generated a poem with ChatGPT. If you have a text that you already use for a unit, if you have it typed out, you can just simply copy and paste that into ChatGPT and ask it to use that poem or story that you've put in and create activities that go along with it. So another way I thought that you could use ChatGPT and poetry is to get it to write just one stanza of a poem and include different tones and moods, and then the students can use it as a writing prompt to continue writing a poem with the same mood and tone. So my prompt I used for this activity was write one stanza of a poem with a cheerful tone and mood using a rhyming pattern. So you can see there it's made one stanza of a poem with an AABB rhyming pattern. The students could then write a second or third stanza trying to keep the same tone or mood and trying to keep the rhyming pattern. I tried another one, write one stanza of a poem with a melancholy mood and tone and do not include a rhyme. I'm not sure about you, but sometimes when my students try and include rhyme, bed and red and quite simplistic words end up being included. So sometimes I find leaving out rhyme will help them to make something a little bit more complex and thorough. Again, it's produced a nice poem. It certainly has a melancholy mood and tone to it. If you want to extend your students a little bit further, you could possibly give them some words that they could include in the poem that would keep the tone. So my prompt was make suggestions of words to include in a poem with a cheerful tone. So you could give your students that beginning cheerful tone poem, that one stanza, and you could also give them some of these words and they could try and incorporate those together. And similarly, I used the prompt, make suggestions for words to include in a poem with a melancholy mood, and it's produced a list of 15 there. And you could give that to your students with the one stanza and ask them to make a poem and continue that poem on. I hope this video has given you some great ideas on how you can use ChatGPT in your classroom and the type of capabilities that it's able to help you with. I started AI for Teachers because I wanted to help teachers with their workload. If you're finding these videos helpful, please hit the subscribe button. Also, your comments are more than welcome on the types of material that you'd like me to make videos on. So just enter those in the comments below. Remember to balance your work and well-being. This has been AI for Teachers, and I'm Jen Twidale.